I'm Tom from Do-It-Yourself Home Automation, and this is a look at which Fitbit you should buy and a comparison of the different Fitbit models that are out there right now as of August 2019. So if you go to the Fitbit website, you go to fitbit.com/compare, you can scroll down here and see all of the different models that Fitbit offers. And then you can select different ones and do a comparison between them. So, this is definitely a helpful feature, but it can be a little bit overwhelming because they have so many different models at this point, and some of them are really just very subtle kinds of differences between models that are otherwise fairly similar. So I'm going to go through these and take a look at the comparisons, and having used most of these myself, I can share some details on what I think are the most important features you might be looking for or not looking for, and that can help you to decide which Fitbit is right for you. So first, I would break these down into three overall categories. And the first category is their sort of smartwatch line. And that's the Ionic, the Versa, and the Versa Lite you see here. And these are sort of full-featured smartwatches where you can get apps, you can get payment, and that kind of thing. You have a full screen, I believe it's an OLED screen on the Versas. And you have more advanced fitness features with some of these watches, like GPS tracking for runs and that kind of thing. The second category, I would say, is this sort of more basic tracker, and this is the Charge 3 and the Inspires, with the HR and the normal Inspire. And these are a little bit fewer features than the smartwatches. They just have, for example, the step tracking and heart rate tracking in some cases, but fewer of the apps and other kinds of phone synchronized types of features than the smartwatch type of line there. And then the final one is new, and I think is kind of a neat concept. I'm curious to see how it'll end up panning out. This is a smartwatch specifically for kids. And so it has more sort of kid-oriented features where it's trying to motivate them to move around more, and also it has parental controls. And that's something I'm going to look into in a different set of reviews, because I think that's really a cool concept. But just taking a look at these two overall categories then, unless you're looking to buy a Fitbit for a kid, in which case the Ace 2 would be the way to go. You're probably going to be thinking between these two general categories and then looking more specifically within each of the categories. So let's look at the smartwatches first. I'm going to select all three of those so we can compare the features. And then you can scroll down here and see exactly what the different features are that each watch has. And first, let's do a cut between the Ionic and the Versas. So really the biggest difference, and the only difference here I find between these two, is that the Ionic has a GPS chip built into it, so it can actually use its own GPS to monitor and map runs and hikes and that kind of thing. And I guess there's this Adidas on-screen workouts. I haven't really tried that. But fundamentally, using the built-in GPS on the watch, you can do tracking and see a map of your run after you finish it. And I've done another video that shows that. It works really well. It's a really cool feature if you do a lot of running or you do a lot of hikes and you want to be able to see exactly where you went and kind of keep a journal of those. Otherwise, the Versas versus the Ionic are fairly similar. It's just really that feature that I think sets them apart. So then let's look within the Versa. There's the Versa and then the Versa Lite edition. Really the biggest things here, the Versa Lite doesn't track the number of floors you climb, so it doesn't have an altimeter built into it. It's not, I don't know if it's fully waterproof. It doesn't do swim tracking, though, like the full Versa does. Neither of them have the built-in GPS chip. Neither of them have the Adidas workouts. It also doesn't do Fitbit Pay, so you can't use it to pay for things in a store with contactless payment. And it doesn't have the music streaming that you would get with the full Versa. So those are really the biggest differences there. Now, between all of these different Fitbit models, really, price is the biggest determinant. So between the Versa and the Versa Lite, you're saving yourself a little money if you don't need swim tracking and that kind of thing. You can get the Versa Lite edition and save yourself a little bit of money there. It's about $40 difference between the two. Then if you want to get the Ionic, you're bumping up to $250. And, that's a pretty significant price increase, where really the only thing you're getting with that versus the Versa itself is that GPS run tracking. So if you want that GPS tracking to be on the watch, then you probably are going to want the Ionic if you're willing to pay a little bit more for it. If you don't need that to be on the watch and you're willing to just have the tracking, because you can see down here, if you actually have your phone with you, you can still get the GPS tracking. It's just using your phone's GPS. So if that works for you and you don't need to have the GPS tracking on the watch itself, and you're always going to have your phone with you, or maybe you just don't care about GPS tracking, and you don't care about these Adidas workouts, then probably the Versa or the Versa Lite is going to be a good option for you versus the Ionic. And, this makes sense. They introduced the Ionic first. It's a great product. I've been using it for about 3 years, I think, 2 or 3 years, basically since it came out. And it works great, but, it is kind of expensive. And this is sort of a newer style, a newer model. It looks a little bit like an Apple Watch with a sort of more rounded faceplate on there. And, really the only thing you're really losing here is the GPS tracking capability. So if you're looking for a smartwatch style of Fitbit, then those are the 3 to consider, and those are some of the factors you might want to look into. Now let's look at the next kind of chunk here, which is the sort of more traditional, almost like a wristband style. So we have the Charge 3, and then we have the Inspire HR, and the just standard Inspire. Now, to make a kind of initial cut, that's, I think, a good place to start. The Inspire HR and the Inspire are exactly the same, except for the fact that the Inspire HR has heart rate tracking. So it's using a little light sensor on the device itself to track your heart rate continuously whenever you're wearing the watch. And this is, helpful to know your heart rate, but it also drives a variety of other features. Guided breathing sessions is one of those, so it looks at your heart rate and helps you to try to lower your heart rate. And you also are able to do different kinds of exercises, so exercises that don't rely on movement. You can still track if you have heart rate, like weightlifting. But if you don't have heart rate, then really only movement types of exercises can be tracked. So that's something to definitely keep in mind between the two. And then the final piece here is that with the HR, you're able to do swim tracking. I'm not sure about waterproofness versus the two here. I don't think that they actually have. They have swim-proof listed down here, but not swim tracking. So I'm assuming all of these are waterproof, but you're just not able to track laps swum when you're using the Inspire versus the HR. So if those multiple kinds of workouts are important to you, or you want to know your heart rate data, then I would look at the Inspire HR. Versus if you don't care about that, and especially if you want sort of the least expensive option to get started with a Fitbit, then the Inspire will probably meet most of your needs. And then the final one here is the Charge 3, and that adds a variety of extra features. You get floors climbed, which you don't get with the other one, so again, no altimeter in there. And you get a couple of things with the smart features. So all of them have basic smart features when they're paired with the phone, like call notifications and text and smartphone app alerts. But you get this option of quick replies where you can quickly send something off, reply to a text message. And you get the Fitbit Pay option where you can use this for contactless payment, versus with the Inspire and the Inspire HR, you don't have those features. So, if you want to do contactless payment, or you want to have a little bit more of the smart capability on there, then that's definitely something to look into the Charge 3. Or if you are a swimmer and you really want to use this for swim tracking, then the Charge 3 versus the Inspire line is probably a good option for you. Looking at this comparison, though, across the line, so let's look at the Charge 3 versus the Versa. Really the biggest difference here is going to be the app functionality that you're going to get with the Versa. And again, that's the smartwatch difference. So if you're going for a smartwatch line like the Versa or the Ionic, then you're going to get all those different apps. So you can get Nest and control your thermostat. I think they have an Uber app now. All these sort of smartwatch things, that's going to be missing from the Charge 3. So if you're looking just for a fitness tracker, then this line is probably great for you. Again, if you want a smartwatch with the full smartwatch features, you're probably looking at either one of the Versas or the Ionic. And then finally, this Ace 2 I think is really interesting. You can see the styling is much more kid-oriented. I think it's kind of a cool area for Fitbit to go into. I'm looking forward to trying that out. But that's the overall differences between the different Fitbit models. Again, I would first look at, the first cut is, do you want a smartwatch, or are you okay with just having a fitness tracker with maybe a few smart features? If you want the smartwatch, consider between the Versas and the Ionic. If you need GPS tracking, you're probably looking at the Ionic. If not, then you could probably go with one of the Versas. If you want just a fitness tracker, then you're really looking at, do you want these sort of quick reply and mobile payment, then you're looking at the Charge 3. But if really you're just looking for a pretty basic fitness tracker with or without heart rate, then you're looking at either of these two, the Inspire HR or the basic Inspire. If you just want to track your steps, you're a walker, you're even a runner, and you don't need a lot of extra features, the Inspire is probably fine. I like, between these two, I like the Inspire HR because I really think that the heart rate tracking provides you a lot more data for other kinds of activities, like different kinds of workouts and that type of thing. If you found this helpful in any way, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps.